May I request everybody to take seat? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a very special day for Internet governance of India. And we are fortunate that we have luminaries with us today evening to celebrate the festival of Internet for the last 3 days, in which we have discussed, debated, deliberated various issues on Internet governance. So I am really thankful to our chief guest, our minister, Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar sir, who has found time and who has joined with us. I am really thankful to Dr. Windsurf, who has joined us through video conferencing, and it is too early morning for him to join. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. And I am really thankful to Shri Alkesh Kumar Sharma sir. He is on the leadership panel of IGF. He is also with us to celebrate this particular event. Chief Operating Officer Mr. N.G. Subramaniam from TCS, representing the industry which is well known. And we have the founder from the gaming app Jeppy to be here. Thank you very much. Internet is network of networks with no physical boundaries and with no single entity to control it. The concept of internet is one internet, one word means an open, inclusive, safe, trusted and reliable internet with a accountability inbuilt. Internet has entered into all of us in such a way that it is difficult for us to undertake personal or official operations without it. With benefits of internet, there are negative side effects which are challenging internet administrators and government at various levels. The 3 days discussion, debates and deliberation at India IGF 22 have focused on economical and social benefits of internet in India. It is also deliberated on how to prevent human beings and nation from its harmful effect. It was a celebration of internet as festival in the last 3 days. Now at present is the closing ceremony. India is fortunate to have all the relevant people who are responsible for internet governance here. To start the function, let me invite Mr. T. Santosh, Additional Director from Ministry of Electronic and IT, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, Anilji. Respected Sri Rajiv Chandrasekhar ji, Honorable Union Minister of State of Electronics and Information Technology and Skill Development on Entrepreneurship. Respected Sri Alkesh Kumar Sharma, Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India. Respected Dr. Windsurf, co-designer of TCP/IP protocols, the architecture of Internet, co-founder of Internet Society and also the chair of the Internet Governance Forum Leadership Panel. Then Mr. N.G. Subramaniam, Chief Operating Officer, Tata Consultancy Services. Mr. Dilsher Malhi, founder Zoopy, and all the fellow multi-stakeholder representatives attending both in person and those joining online. Greetings to one and all. I welcome you all to the closing ceremony of India Internet Governance Forum 2022. It is a matter of great pride for us in the Internet governance fraternity to have witnessed the stakeholder community's hard work that resulted in the second edition or the second installment of the IIGF 2022. With leveraging TechAid for empowering Bharat as this year's theme, all the presenters and speakers here at India IGF have showcased extremely enlightening views and opened the sphere for future discussion. I am certainly delighted to have been part of this momentous occasion. We have cause to celebrate some tremendous development in addition to the news of India's leading the presidency of G20, which underscores the significance of community events such as India IGF. Our minister's leadership has paved the way for every Indian to have to access an open, safe and trusted and accountable internet. Another achievement of India is Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT, who is a member in the United Nations IGF Leadership Panel and now the present India IGF 2022. Friends, the significance of multi-stakeholderism for the Indian internet governance community has never been more crucial. Over the course of last few days, this National Internet Governance Forum engaged in discussions that were exactly as prescribed by our minister during last year. Such deliberations on various nuanced aspects of technology and how to further inculcate it into all corners of the nation is what would help us in building a $1 trillion economy as we aspire. To refresh everyone's memory, the sessions and workshops focused on mainly 5 sub-themes with a range of viewpoints on interplay of emerging technologies and how to utilize it towards economic progress. Thereon, we had opportunity to scale the topic of public digital platforms and the critical role they play in digital service delivery. And then it went on to address accessibility issues and equitable access. This was emphasized by the thinkers who explored the potential for abuse and scaling the security threats for a safer internet. And lastly, on how to regulate digital access and last mile connectivity for the decade we speak of. As in previous years, key takeaways as outcome of this 3 days deliberation will be released, and we hope that the outcome of this year's India Internet Governance Forum deliberations prove useful to the multi-stakeholder community at large. In closing, I hope the momentum that India IGF has gained increases over the years to come, and it keeps all the stakeholders motivated to bring out the best that Internet can offer to India and the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh. To start the function, let us all welcome the dignitaries on the stage. May I request Mr. Satish Babu to come and hand over the saplings to, first of all, to Honorable Minister. Satish to Secretary, sir. Secretary Mighty. Satish to Mr. N.G. Subramaniam. And Mr. Dilshed Malhi. Thank you. First speaker of the evening, I am inviting Mr. Dilshed Singh Malhi, who is the founder and CEO of Joopy, which is a gaming space, and gaming is increasing in the country very fast. He is an alumni of IIT Kanpur, and he is a strong advocate of human behavior and use of technology can help the transformational of the business, and innovation can enhance quality of life. He also featured in the prestigious Forbes Asia 30 Under 30 in consumer technology. I request Mr. Dilshed to please come and give his deliberations and his address to us.
Good evening, respected Minister Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar ji, respected Secretary IT Shri Alkesh Kumar Sharma ji, respected Mr. Subramaniam, respected Mr. Mitchell, respected Mr. Surf, Dr. Bhattacharya, and other dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. It's an honor to be here today to address the distinguished gathering of policymakers and thought leaders from industry and global institutions like UN and IIG. As a brief intro, I come from a small town in Rajasthan, did my engineering from IIT Kanpur, went through my share of experimentations, and now we are running the fastest growing skill-based gaming company Zupi that employs more than 300 people and hosts around 9 million gamers per month on our platform. I join you today to reverberate the sense of optimism that this will be India's decade, and I am hopeful that it will be instrumental in propelling the country into the developed nations orbit. India has the third largest startup ecosystem with over 80,000 recognized startups and over 100 unicorns. In fact, according to the Morningstar Unicorn Index, 10% of all new unicorns globally are born in India. This has happened mainly because of mobile telephony, coupled with smartphones that's coupled with app ecosystem, further coupled with UPI and Aadhaar. I crystal glaze that now with 5G being rolled out with faster speed, low latency, and millions of smartphones with enhanced computing power, this new age of startups will not only propel India past the much aspired $1 trillion digital economy by 2025, but also position India as an architect of new digital economy, riding on some of the key linchpins. Firstly, startups are solving real world problems. There are emerging tech business models on sustainability, education, health, employment, climate change, energy, food crisis, pandemic control, livelihoods, etc. We have seen the internet transforming traditional sectors like finance and retail, among others, through UPI and Aadhaar. There are enough opportunities for the startups to venture into new areas. They will respond to the evolving needs of people and serve painkillers as well as vitamins for good social health. Gamification of the processes to solve real world problems is an exciting idea for many of us to explore, and I call that vitamins. Perhaps in the near future, we will move from less need of painkillers with more invigorating vitamins and towards measuring our prosperity not just by GDP but also through GWQ, that is gross wellness quotient. Secondly, emerging tech is redefining the conventional realms. Especially tech like AI, M2M, quantum computing, gaming, space tech undoubtedly is transforming the way businesses are run, policies are made, countries are governed, and human resources are trained. Thirdly, I'll touch upon Indian legacy. There are potential legacies getting rated by India like UPI and Aadhaar, getting noticed across the globe. The products and services tested in a market of 1 billion value-conscious users should have a natural edge to be globally successful. I also want to mention on this forum that the present tech startup community is a product of internet-enabled businesses, and a free, open, and democratic internet governance framework is a necessary element for the future growth. We also agree that all the platforms need to be accountable for doing the necessary due diligence and corrective actions to ensure user safety, transparency, and trust. In my view, most of the perceived problems can be solved by the use of technology and least intrusive regulations. For example, we are in the online gaming business and there are concerns on defining predominance of skill and how to differentiate them from games of chance. And according to us, this can be done by building a data-driven framework that is based on objective principles to test games in a simulated environment. Then there are concerns around principles to test games. Then there are concerns around algorithmic manipulation and fair play in the gaming platforms. We can make blockchain-based solutions to ensure the gaming platforms are transparent and tamper-proof. This approach of enabling use of technology to find solutions, then a prescriptive regulatory intervention would help industry to be more innovative as well as responsible for addressing the users and public concerns. We welcome enabling regulations that are business friendly and protect user interests at the same time. We see the government as a trusted partner, rather a trusted hand-holding guide in this journey. This continued support and guidance will enable the startup ecosystem to mature into a formidable backbone of the Indian economy as the outcome of this decade. Lastly, as we build with India's growth in our heart, our cultural ethos of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is the entire world is like family, will inspire many of us to build for the entire world. I will conclude with a huge thanks to the Minister and others for listening to my views and pay my gratitude to the India IGF Coordination Committee for organizing this meaningful interaction. Thank you. Namaskar.
Dilsher, thank you very much, and you bring the hopes of startups building and fueling the digital economy which is expected. But only thing which we were discussing in the morning is that we request people like you to distinguish very clearly between gaming and gambling, and gambling should not be, which is not allowed in India. Thank you very much. Now the next speaker is Mr. Subramaniam. NG Subramaniam is the Chief Operating Officer of TCS. Since 2017, he is also an additional director and chairman of Tata Elxsi. He held many key leadership positions in TCS across client delivery, business development, integration of business and product development. NGS, which he is popularly known, joined TCS in 1982 after completing his masters in mathematics from University of Madras, and he has benefit of attending various training programs including executive program of growing companies at Stanford University. Mr. Subramaniam, thank you.
Thank you. Respected and Honorable Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar ji, Shri Alkesh Sharma, Dilsher, my industry colleagues, distinguished guests, members from the media, good evening to all of you. Let me try to be as brief as I can be because this topic on hand is quite vast. And at the outset, I want to also thank Dr. Surf for giving us the internet. Thank you so much, sir. It has been a pleasure. Pleasure to meet with you right now. I'll just start by saying that, look, we had a few guests at home some time back, right? And then as the conversation in some of these get-togethers go, you know, one of these, my contemporaries said that, look, imagine the time when we didn't have the internet. Then, you know, one of the children who was listening to it, he said that, look, what do you mean you didn't have internet? I mean, I thought that sums it up all, right? And then my son is a toxicologist, and he's very passionate about protecting endangered species and applying technology to that field. So in one of those conversations with the companies, you know, he was in these conferences, you know, the other person was curious and asking him, so who are your connections? And to that he responded saying that, look, I am connected to the internet, whom do you want me to engage with, right? So, you know, that's kind of puts internet in perspective, right? Ever since its inception, I think internet has been the backbone of our lives, and it has been built on the principles of openness, equality, and I should say seamless extensibility, right? The governance of these principles have been quite established, well established, I should say, while there has always been some debate or the other around it. What are the opportunities to improve those governances, and how do we build more inclusive development of this internet across people, industries, communities, and the government at large. You know, it involves a lot of things, and I think, you know, especially with respect to, let's say, the IP addressing, DNS, routing, technical innovations. In these areas, I think, you know, it's all there. I think, you know, it's a question of, it's proven beyond doubt, it is resilient, it is scalable, and there are always some additions that happens. And there are things like, you know, for example, intellectual property, taxation, and things related to national security. There will always be some discussions, because these are individual countries' choices and individual countries' critical infrastructure, and they all need to be discussed with certain amount of practicality and pragmatism. I think that's very important. And we are in a digital era, and where everything that's happening now is interactive, intuitive, and pretty much instantaneous. So internet is the backbone on which much of this digital innovation is happening. There is no denying the fact that internet will continue to be the backbone on which we will all realize our potential and aspirations. But in doing so, the challenges we are going to be facing, we are facing, and we will be facing will be huge, no doubt about it. Online safety, I think, you know, is one of the topics that is discussed. Then data security, privacy, national security, all will require proactive collaboration. And the Digital India initiative, if I can say that, is truly accelerating the growth of the Indian economy and is a reference point for many countries, both developed and developing, as we see it today. And in a recent survey, more than 82% of the people from India who was surveyed, so who responded to the survey, said that they cannot live without the internet, and that 82% is the highest among all the people responded from different countries. So the economic growth of the future, no doubt, will be driven by data, and it will all be driven with embedded intelligence. Most systems of records, most systems of experience and intelligence are likely to be on the cloud. Being the largest democracy of the world, the ever growing internet penetration, the density of the mobile network that we have, commitment to affordable access, one of the fastest growing digital economies in the world, and our strength as a software powerhouse, India is well positioned and has the responsibility to not only protect the core principles of internet, but also to shape its future as each country is grappling with the challenges of national security, data privacy, data security, and so on, and more so on the prevention of criminal activities over the internet. Dealing with challenges will require a balanced approach, certain degree of caution, and yet pragmatism. And there are about few points that I would like to state here. Number one, access to the internet must not be restricted by discriminatory measures, either from service providers or otherwise. Secondly, principle of net neutrality needs to be dealt with in a fair and reasonable manner. Thirdly, data privacy and protection regulations cannot be a stumbling block for innovation, and it should take into consideration the advancements that we see in 5G and 6G technologies and the much talked about convergence of broadband, broadcast, and everything else. Fourthly, the social platforms and applications cannot be unduly influenced by foreign forces that can work against the interest of national security. Fifthly, let us nurture an open R&D environment and knowledge sharing among the multiple stakeholders, including policy definitions and the role of artificial intelligence and machine learning and deep learning to accelerate the safety and prevention of criminal activities on the internet. Lastly, the multi-stakeholder governance, policies enabling access, and evolving standards across the various layers of infrastructure, access, logic, content, and security should be formulated with full involvement of stakeholders from the developing countries, as inclusivity and the needs of these countries are substantially different. So to conclude, let us commit ourselves for multi-stakeholder model of internet governance and help to preserve the character of the internet as an engine of innovation, a vehicle for economic growth, and above all to improve the quality of life and public safety and industry at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Subramaniam. I think you have spoken the spirit of both consumer as well as a industry which is responsible for providing internet to all of you. Thank you, sir. Now I am inviting a video clip, a video message from Mr. Paul Mitchell. Mr. Paul Mitchell is a current chair of United Nations Internet Governance Forum Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group. He has worked in Microsoft for more than 30 years and held various diverse roles, including Microsoft's first C++ development system, launch of MSN media room, numerous media standards, digital rights, and several technologies. Paul previously led Microsoft work on internet governance, including working with International Telecom Union, Internet Governance Forum, the Internet and Jurisdiction Project, and ICANN on Internet Policy. Let us listen to him. Can we have the video from Mr. Paul Michel?
Hello, I've just returned from the IGF in Addis Ababa. It was an amazing week. Over 4,000 registrants from 165 countries, over 300 sessions focused on our theme of resilient internet for shared, sustainable, and common future, and related sub-themes. It's my honor to chair the multi-stakeholder advisory group of the IGF, which over the past many months has been responsible for curating the program that took place in Addis. I want to recognize the tremendous effort and collaboration that Magna was put into the process leading up to this year's meeting. The second Indian Internet Governance Forum featured 2 high-level panels, 2 main sessions, 3 fireside chats, 17 workshops, and 3 flash talks based around themes directly related to the situation in India and delivered in a hybrid model. This is an important meeting for India. As one of the 152 national and regional IGFs, this meeting enabled participants to engage with other stakeholders on critical topics for the global internet governance. I want to express my thanks and appreciation to the organizers who made this Indian IGF meeting possible. These meetings come at a time when increasingly the world is asking hard questions about internet governance. The UN system as a whole is increasingly leaning into technology equity issues and recognizing the fully intertwined nature of our shared reliance on a resilient internet. These IGF meetings are more relevant than ever. The level of interest in digital and internet governance has never been higher. And the selected themes for the Addis meeting reflected the goal of aligning the work of the IGF with other UN work on digital policy, including the Global Digital Compact and the Summit on the Future. A hallmark of the IGF process is the flexibility to deal with issues of local importance. While the themes for the Addis IGF are global in scope, the structure and approach to the IGF as a whole enables programs like the Indian IGF to focus on issues of the most direct relevance to the local conditions, and the Indian IGF topics directly relate to the experience in India. When the Internet Governance Forum was created as an outcome of the World Summit on the Information Society in 2005, it was an innovation. The IGF was an innovation at a time when we were only just beginning to see the potential of the Internet and digital technologies. Rather than opt for a top-down, government-led digital governance treaty, those pioneers adopted the innovation of the multi-stakeholder model, and that has led to the vibrant IGF that we see today. That has grown to include 152 national and regional IGFs, complete with an abundance of intersessional activities, dynamic coalitions, best practice forums, and policy networks. And attention to the future, with youth engagement and a parliamentary track. All innovations developed over the past 17 years, resulting in the vibrant events that we are experiencing today. This year's Indian Internet Governance Forum is an important part of the process. The vibrancy was not assured when the IGF began. It took courage to break through established barriers. Innovation takes courage. Innovation breaks through established barriers to change the game, meeting old needs in new ways, more efficiently, or it meets new needs or wants that we don't know we have. For example, home video recorders, the personal computer, the smartphone were all innovations in their time and initially viewed with skepticism. Each has created billions of dollars in value for consumers and industry alike. And of course, there's the internet. Innovators frequently face tough challenges, ridicule, and doubt. For example, Galileo was investigated by the Roman Inquisition as he tried to learn to understand our universe. The Royal Society refused to publish Edward Jenner's important paper on the spread of smallpox. Scientific American dubbed the Wright brothers the Lying Brothers, ridiculing their success flying at Kitty Hawk. And the Italian Minister of Posts and Telecommunications suggested that Marconi visit an insane asylum when he requested funding funding to research wireless technologies. They faced obstacles, but they each had vision and passion and overcame them. Galileo's invention led us to the moon. Edward Jenner's innovation eradicated smallpox from the planet, saving millions of people. The Wright brothers' innovation shrank the planet. And Marconi's innovations became the foundations of modern wireless communications that we use in the internet today. Add to this the countless internet innovators who work every day around the world to change the world for the better, to achieve digital equity, to apply technologies in service of solving the planet's hardest challenges. There were, and still are, many naysayers when it comes to multi-stakeholder governance. There was no guarantee. But adopting a multi-stakeholder model for governance discussions that recognized the respective roles of governments, the private sector, and civil society has allowed for the norms, rules, and decision-making procedures to evolve and enable the tremendous developments that have taken place over the past nearly 2 decades. Over time, using this governance model together, we have achieved at least a rough consensus around important principles that aim to sustain the global internet, reinforcing democratic principles, fundamental freedoms, and human rights as reflected in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But while we have made meaningful progress, much remains to be done. The IGF is continuing its own innovation with the high-level panel and engaging with the technology in the Global Digital Compact and the Summit for the Future of the World processes. The Indian IGF has the opportunity to make substantive contributions to the ongoing process of Internet governance. As the second Internet Governance Forum concludes, I hope that you have been inspired and rejuvenated. Going forward, I hope that you are motivated to build upon and defend the legacy of innovation that has been so important today. In closing, I want to thank the organizers of the second Indian Internet Governance Forum for their passion and courage to innovate this year and make the Indian IGF the success that it has been. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, for sparing time and recording the video message for all of us at India. And it is very important message which you have given to all of us. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a voice for which we are all waiting. Dr. Vint Cerf. Dr. Vint Cerf globally don't need any, any clarification about who he is, but for the knowledge of we Indian audience, I will speak something. But suppose I start reading his biography, it will take around 1 hour for me to read it. But anyway, let me try my best in shortest possible time, whatever we can say. Vint is working right now as a Vice President and Chief Internet Evangelist for Google since October 2005. In his role, he contributed to global policy development and continued standardization and the spread of the internet. He is also an active public face for Google in internet world. Widely known as one of the father of internet, Cerf is co-designer of TCP/IP protocols and architecture of internet. In December 1997, President Clinton presented the US National Medal of Technology to Cerf and his colleague Robert Kahan for founding and developing the internet. And he also got the Turing Award, which is also known as the Nobel Prize for Computer Science. He served as chairman of the board of Internet Corporation for which is known as ICANN, from 2000 to 2007, almost 8 years. Cerf also served as founding president of Internet Society from 1992 to 95, and in 1999 served as the chairman of the board. In addition, Cerf is honorary chairman of the IPv6 forum, dedicated to raising awareness and speeding introduction of new internet protocol. In December 1994, People magazine identifies Cerf as one of that year's 25 most intriguing people. Sir hold a Bachelor of Science degree in Mathematics from Stanford University and a Master of Science and PhD degree in Computer Science from UCLA. He also holds honorary doctorate degree from several universities, not one university, several universities. And if we read about his whatever the awards and merits he has got, I think it'll take hours together. So I don't want to come between you and Dr. Cerf, and let us listen to him. Over to you, Vint, for giving your wisdom to we all Indian viewers. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for letting me join you. Good afternoon or good evening to you. It's quite early morning here in Washington, D.C., but it's a pleasure to join you in this closing ceremony. It would be very hard to add much to what's already been said. I have to say that I took notes as I listened to the previous speakers. These points that were made were both inspiring and very encouraging. The thing that I find most wonderfully dramatic about the Indian story and the internet is that not only have you exported information technology, but you've also exported leadership. I'm sure many of you are well aware that some of the largest companies in the United States are now led by Indian CEOs. So thank you for that contribution as well. As many of you know, I've just returned, as has Paul Mitchell, from the IGF, International IGF in Addis Ababa, where we had, as he said, literally hundreds of meetings and thousands of participants. One thing I will emphasize is that the Secretary General of the United Nations participated, not in person, but remotely, in part because of his appointment of the leadership panel to work jointly with the MAG in order to inspire and amplify the messages coming out of both the international IGF and all of the regional ones of which you are a part. One thing I would like to emphasize is that in the opening session of the IGF in Addis Ababa, there were many speeches made that were very similar to the ones that we just heard. But the one call for action that I tried to make was that it was time to roll up our sleeves and get to work. We've been admiring the many problems that the internet has introduced, as well as its many opportunities, but it's time for us to make it work better. We are seeking a safer and more secure and affordable and sustainable internet. We want to assure that transborder data flows are open and free because they're fundamental to the utility of the internet and the computing capabilities that it offers. And finally, I think we all want to be reassured that the freedoms that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights expresses are available in the online world as well as the offline world that we inhabit. Among the themes that I noted during the IGF meeting in Addis Ababa, accountability and agency and privacy were very, very frequently mentioned, and as they have been in today's speeches as well, and I assume over the several days that you've been meeting. Accountability is really important here, and it's not only of individuals and institutions, but countries need to be held accountable for their behaviors on the internet. And in order to achieve that objective, I hope you'll recognize that international cooperation is required, and also a certain measure of exposure in the following sense. Absolute anonymity is not your friend if you want to hold parties accountable for their behavior. And so, in spite of the fact that pseudonymity and anonymity have value in the internet environment, it's essential that we be able to penetrate that veil at need and under the right conditions in order to achieve the accountability that I think we all desire. The leadership panel was met several times during the Addis Ababa IGF, and its charter essentially, I will summarize here. First of all, it is to amplify the findings of the IGF, including those that are rolled up from the national and regional IGFs, as you were just now concluding in India. All of that needs to roll up into the international event and then amplified by the leadership panel. We want to improve the visibility of IGF. Your work over the last several days is vital not only to India, but all to the rest of us as well. We want also, quite frankly, to improve the funding of the IGF Secretariat. It's been running on, frankly, a shoestring, and I think that we all need to recognize that the value of the Secretariat has to be supported financially as well, and so that's an important focus for the leadership panel. We certainly hope that the panel members who have networks of their own will use those networks to relay and reinforce the messages coming out of the IGFs of today and the future. I hope many of you will have an opportunity to participate in the IGF in 2023 in Japan. And I want to acknowledge Secretary Sharma's contributions already to the leadership panel. He was the first to produce a written contribution and participated remotely in our deliberations. And I appreciate that very, very much and look forward to further contribution from him and others. I wanted to do a little bit of history mining for just a second. And so, you know, old folks like me always like to tell anecdotes. And my anecdote, which I think is relevant to your deliberations today, is that in 1993, one of my colleagues, Peter Kirstein, who is sort of the father of the internet in Europe, and I came to India to talk to the ERNet leadership that was struggling to implement networking in India. And ERNet was the focus of attention, but it was trying to use the OSI protocols of the day and was not having a heck of a lot of success at that. And so Peter and I suggested that in 1993, maybe you should try TCP/IP. It seems to be working okay in other parts of the world. Maybe it would work in India as well. And I think your deliberations over the past 3 days have demonstrated that not only has it worked, but you have contributed to it, enhanced it, and grown it, and continue to do so in ways that I'm sure many of us won't even imagine until we see the results. The last point that I want to make is to echo what Mr. Subramaniam said. I could not have said anything better than he did. His observations, his points of concern and consideration should be heard more broadly, surely by you and me, but also by others. And so I would like to encourage that his speech be made in written form available for others to read and contemplate. Lastly, let me thank you for the opportunity to participate, however remotely. I can tell you that I look forward to a return to India whenever it's possible, partly because my wife has fallen in love with all of your arts and furniture, and we have an entire basement full of Indian artifacts, and I'm sure she would like to collect more of them. And so I look forward to opportunities to return again and to greet many of you face to face. In the meantime, as they say, I'll see you on the net.
Thank you, Vint. Thank you. And it is always engrossing, speech when you give and you talk about India, you talk about internet, and the mission which you are carrying for internet is the same mission which we at India is carrying. And internet is going to work for the humanity. And you have rightly said at Addis Ababa also that yes, internet has benefited the mankind. But yes, there are issues which I think together we should be able to resolve and take it to the greater heights for the humanity again, to work. And please remember, Vint, you promised me in Addis Ababa that you are going to visit India in 2023 itself. So kindly keep this particular, promise to me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have an honor to invite another member of the leadership panel of United Nations IGF, for whom Vint had just spoken. Recently, our Secretary Sir has been appointed to the UN Internet Governance Forum High Level Leadership Panel, which is a strategic, empowered and multi-stakeholder body to address strategic and urgent issues and to highlight forum discussions and possible follow-up actions in order to promote a greater impact and dissemination of IGF discussion, to which Vint is the chair. Sir has worked with United Nations Development Program UNDP for 3 years in 2006 to 2009 as National Project Director, Urban Development and Poverty Alleviation. Secretary Sir is presently posted as Secretary in the Ministry of Electronic and Information Technology. Earlier, he served as Additional Secretary and Secretary in the Cabinet Secretariat, Government of India. In addition to other responsibility given to him, he was looking after the cabinet proposals of all infrastructure, economic, financial, industry, agriculture and allied ministries of the central government. He was member of the project monitoring group set up in the Prime Minister Office, Government of India. Sir has served at various places in central government, in PSUs and other places, and he has received lot of awards. So I'll mention few. Sir has received the Best CEO Award twice from the Kerala State, the President Medal for the Best District Census Officer and the Best Performance Award from the Kerala State, India. He has been awarded the Global CEO of the Year Award in 2018 by CSR Global Foundation. He is Honorary Fellow at the Center for Excellence in Project Management, New Delhi. Let us welcome Secretary Sir to address all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jain. Honorable Minister, Sri Rajiv Chandrasekhar Sir, distinguished NGS, COTCS, Mr. Dilsher, of course, Dr. Vint. So we are looking forward to see you in India soon. Welcome. Distinguished delegates, friends. It is always a matter of great privilege and I'm delighted to be here in your midst this afternoon. But when you ask me to speak on a topic, when I have my Honorable Minister sitting here and Dr. Vint there, I think I will not venture into talking about internet and the internet governance. As it happens in government, you know, we always have the team which gives us the talking points, you know. And sometimes we both of us end up taking the same set of talking points. So that's another reason that I will not venture into talking too much about it. But then, yes, as we know, I mean, I'm indeed happy that the second India Internet Governance Forum is happening in India. It has been an outstanding achievement for all of us, as India's progress in internet governance space has been depicted in the past as well as in this IIGF. And I think this is a forum where we should annually showcase what we have, and it's also a forum where we should learn from each other what is that we have done. As Dr. Vint had said, we should look at internet. I know we can't live without it, but then it's sometimes difficult to live with it. And I'll give you an example. I had also had the occasion to serve as PS2 minister long ago. And that is when the mobile had just started in the early 2000. Of course, mobile was there. And then I had to, came to office and suddenly I left my mobile at home. And then I was getting so impatient and all. And everybody started asking what happened. I said, I have left my mobile and my minister is in her constituency. So, you know what happens when you have a proactive minister like what I have now, and a PS like me, who may call up you every, half an hour. So that is what internet can do to you. But yes, it speaks volume for our country's interest in internet governance and the kind of capacity and the complexity and the continued evolution which we are doing and learning through these workshops. Friends, internet stakeholder community is as vibrant and as diverse, and we are constantly working together to achieve the core mandate that how do we scale up our digitalization in India. The objective, of course, Honorable Minister will talk about, it's about how do we continue within the principles of open, safe and trusted and accountable internet. I think that's something very close to our minister's heart and our heart, and we must take it forward. The government and other agencies of the country have time and again given life to missions that enshrine multi-stakeholderism, accessibility, accountability, security and innovation as part of its formidable digital economy plans. From our Digital India program to our digital literacy initiative, Skill India mission, which Honorable Minister is leading, our indigenous COVID success story, which has become a world story, COVIN, and all technical progress in building this India is well marked and evolving. The theme of this year's IIGF, I think quite appropriate, India Internet Governance Forum, leveraging decade for empowering Bharat. I think this decade, we are calling it the decade of India. I think we are looking at the major initiative, connecting the unconnected ones, as we have been talking about, looking at, it has to be a whole of government approach. We are moving away from a typical enterprise base or the solution based, initiatives to an ecosystem, basically ecosystem based architecture. That is where we have to move towards. We are looking at building laws which ensures that there is a privacy, protection, safety, security of our citizens and their data. At the same time, we also ensure that the industry and the economy has to grow. We are also looking at how do we build a $1 trillion dollar digital economy in next 4 to 5 years on multiple accounts, on electronics hardware, on semiconductor, on software solutions, on e-commerce. So these multiple things are going together, and we have to all work together on this. So I think this is a good occasion and an appropriate forum to discuss these issues. Of course, I also had this opportunity to be part of Dr. Wind's team, and where I know that Secretary General in the high-level leadership panel has spoke about how do we create these great minds on digital space, and how do we create an internet. And in fact, Dr. Wind, you will know that we had the minister from Addis Ababa, and then when we started talking about security and the safety of internet, she spoke about the technology itself, the affordability, the availability, the acceptability, the multiple. He said, we are struggling with the other side of digital divide. You are talking about this, and there are economies which don't even have access and at affordable internet. So I think we have to see how do we bring about this kind of an equality, equity and egalitarian society where internet should come and should help each other in solving multiple problems. We have done India Global Stack, where we have talked about, we have Agri Stack, we have Health Stack. UPI has become one of the world's most transacted system on financial transactions. We have FinTech, we have online gaming platforms. The multiple things, you talk about it, and this community, you all have shown that it can be done, and it can be done for the good of the community, good of the society. We are going to connect the last and the unconnected ones in next 500 days through the best internet connectivity, broadband connectivity, whichever mode we have to go, but we are going to touch them in next 450 days. So that is how Government of India is working. I know you had high intensity debates and discussions and interactions in last 2 days. Couple of the points which I have been told, I think Honorable Minister may also speak about. So like right from fostering digital innovation towards economic progress, import of multilingual internet, I think very important, and I'm so happy that we have started working on that under the leadership of our minister. The Digital India Bhashan is already moving on to that in that direction, and we'll soon come out with some specific solutions on multiple languages, at least to begin with the Indian languages. Enhance inclusivity to overcome geographic, financial and gender divide. I spoke about it. India Stack Global, we talked about it. I think we have to reach the unreached to enhance connectivity and skilling. The skilling is important. It's not only connectivity, digital literacy. People should know how to use internet, and we must be building trust, resilience, safety and security. It has to be an open, safe, trusted, and accountable internet. Digital safety, we have talked about. One of our bill is already for consultation in public domain. I am sure you would have given your suggestions on that. We have 17th as the last date, and we are keenly looking at your suggestions. We will be coming out soon with a couple of other initiatives on the online gaming. Of course, Dilsey has talked about skill, and so we'll soon be coming out with some specific regulations on that. Honorable Minister will speak about that. And the whole idea is that we must create an inclusive and empowered digital economy in India. And that is where we are looking toward to. We are looking forward to your support, your guidance, and feedback, whatever, which can help us in building a good initiative on Digital India. I am sure the deliberations of this event will lead to further discussion and a way forward to make use of internet safe, secure, and trusted, and it should be for the welfare of the community at large. I would like to congratulate all the hosts of the event who have successfully organized this event, and would like to thank each one of you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much for leading us at the International Forum, United Nations IGF, and we have very bright future with his leadership. Thank you. Now the time is for the chief guest, and chief guest, see, I'll tell you my personal thing. I worked and interact with ministers since 2000 when Pramod Mahajan sir was the first with whom I started interacting, and several ministers. I have never seen such a proactive, dynamic, hardworking MOS in my life. Sir is a Indian politician, but I am giving the other flavor also. An entrepreneur, technocrat, and a member of parliament of BJP from Karnataka. Sir is master in computer science in 1988 from Illinois University of Technology, Chicago. He was handpicked by Vinod Dham to Intel, and he worked there from 1988 to 1991. At Intel, he was part of the architectural team that designed 486 processor. He also completed an advanced management program for Harvard University. In 1991, after returning to India, he founded BPL Group and became the chairman of BPL. He founded later on Jupiter Capital. He is currently managing assets worth US $800 million or more in technology, media, hospitality, and entertainment. He is an honorary doctorate by Vishwakarma Technology University, Belgaum. Sir is widely recognized as the most informed and active MP on Digital India, Internet and technological issue, spectrum allocation, net neutrality, consumer right in cyberspace politics, policies and regulatory matters, that is unafraid to dive into issues. As a politician, he is very active. In 2013, he led an online campaign to give citizens an avenue to directly get their voice in parliament. He campaigned to get the right to vote to the armed personnel who are staying in the corners and from their workplace, which is a reality today. He introduced a private member bill on the declaration of countries as a sponsor of terrorism bill in 2016, and in 2015 he fight for the freedom of expression and speech on internet. Sir, एक minute और sir, he is focused on implementing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of Digital India by expanding and deepening India's tech and innovation economy, developing India as a global talent and entrepreneurship hub. In this regard, he has led several initiatives in MIT like semiconductor mission, electronic system design, manufacturing, deep tech investment promotion, startup India and technology policy development. Unending achievement of such a personality. So let us welcome our chief guest, our honorable minister, Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar sir.
After that introduction, I think one of the important decisions we must take for future IIGF meetings is to keep the introductions briefer and maybe have a lot more time to have a meaningful discussion on the issues. So let me just first of all thank you, Dr. Vinton Cerf, of course a big hero and a poster boy for most of us who've been in tech, and a serious motivation or serious reason to come out on a Sunday and be in a program like this is of course his presence. So thank you for your contribution, and thank you for your service for so many decades, and thank you for your words here. Mr. Subramaniam, my colleague in the ministry and co-traveler in our efforts to create a better digital future, Shri Alkesh Sharma, and of course Dilsher, who is representing the entrepreneurship and the energy in our digital economy. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you all for participating and contributing to this 3-day deliberation of the IIGF. So first off, to Vinton, I just want to say thank you for protecting India and preventing us from being an oversized island in the early 90s. I did not know you were the reason for it, but thank you for that. Otherwise, we would have been an outlier in the early 90s and not joined the internet mainstream as we did. And may I suggest that being a good husband is always a good thing, and maybe encourage you to visit and help your wife's interests in Indian art and Indian handicrafts. It's always a good thing to be a good husband. I speak from experience. And while I know you have more experience in this, I certainly think that is good justification for an India visit. Look, I have gone through the topics discussed at the IIGF, and I must congratulate the team at Nixie and the leadership for really pulling off an even better second IIGF compared to the first one. And it is interesting, it is important because we have, just a few years ago, we were at a time and a place where the multi-stakeholderism of the internet in India was something that we were aspiring to, fighting for, requesting, and was not such a natural, easily available framework. And so a lot of people had to struggle from the outside to be heard. And it is good that we have progressed to this place in time where we are naturally meeting and having this institutional framework, institutional consultative framework to shape the future of the internet, both in India and hopefully contribute to how it's shaped elsewhere in the world as well. It is ironic, and you know, Dr. Cerf mentioned about old men coming up with historical nuggets, and let me share one nugget with you, which is that it is in the same room in 2012 that the UN SERP effort by the then government, they wanted to hand over the regulation and management of the internet to a United Nations body called the UN SERP. And I had written a letter to the government, I raised it in Parliament, and there was a session like this where a number of Indian diplomats who were championing that move along with China were really flayed by the audience, and as a consequence, in a few weeks after that, India withdrew that position from the UN SERP, and then of course Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji in 2014 effectively buried it and said that we believe in an absolutely open internet. We do not believe that the state or the government must come anywhere near it, and therein is the origins of the IIGF and the multi-stakeholderism that we see strongly, vibrantly visible in India today. As Secretary Sharma said, our objectives and our goals for the Indian internet are very clear and consistent. These type of consultations help us take those forward with the with the necessary guardrails and boundary conditions and enabling environments. Our objectives are, as you know, we are the largest connected nation in the world today. We are the largest presence on the global internet. We are 800 million Indian users. And in 3 years' time, with a combination of 5G and the largest rural broadband connectivity network project, the BharatNet, we will have over 1.2 to 1.3 billions constituting the single largest presence on the global internet. So our presence is not just as consumers and users. We expect our presence to be not on the innovation side of the internet, as well as on the regulatory and policy making side in the future of the internet. So we clearly see India, the Indian users, the Indian innovators being on the big round table as the future of the internet is being discussed, debated, shaped, and built as we move forward. So we are obviously in that. That is our number one goal. The second goal is we have had tremendous success in the last few years around the innovation side of the internet, with the considerable amount of innovation investments that have created a confidence and energy amongst our young Indians of a kind that has never been seen before. And we expect to take that further, and we expect that $1 trillion digital economy will be built in the next 4 to 5 years, up from the 300 billion plus that we have today, on the back of all the other opportunities that have been created by government policy. And the third is the fact that we believe that the internet has to be inclusive, and then when we say 1.2 billion Indians need to come on the internet, we don't expect the 1.2 billion Indians who don't know English or Hindi to have to learn English and Hindi to use the internet and to experience the full power and the empowerment that the internet represents. So that is the point that Secretary Alkesh ji mentioned, that we expect to use technologies to be able to offer the internet and the power of the internet to every Indian, regardless of whether he or she is English fluent or Hindi fluent. We are, as you know, so these are the areas that we are focused on. These are clearly policy things that we have laid out, and the multi-stakeholder universe will contribute to it. But also at the same time, we believe that the internet, which has been a force for good, is seen as a force for good, also has increasingly begun to represent risk, user harm, and criminality. And so therefore, we have clearly laid out that for the Indian internet in particular, that the openness aspect of the internet, that we want to keep the internet open. We don't want pressure, powers, commercial or state, to come in there and in any way distort the very fundamental open choice that the consumers have to both access and content and services and products. We believe safety and trust are core issues for us to address, especially because 1.2 billion Indians are going to use the internet. They're going to be the elderly, they're going to be the students, they're going to be children, they're going to be women, they're going to be the rural, they're going to be urban. And so therefore, safety and trust online become very, very important policy duties on the part of the government to deliver to our citizens. And of course, accountability. Accountability, for too long, governments of the world, and indeed IGF and most forums have lagged behind these big private platforms, big tech platforms, in terms of the do's and don'ts and the rule making that are required, because we treated them for very long as innovators and innovations rather than deal with them as innovations, as well as those innovations potentially being able to cause harm and create other disruptions to society and people. So we believe that these are areas that we have to address. We are slowly and systematically building the jurisprudential, legal, policy frameworks in place, and the consultation and the multi-stakeholder ecosystem that has been built around the internet in India is helping us build these policies and build these laws through extensive consultation. And to give you an example, the recently notified IT rules, intermediary rules, went through almost 3.5 months of public consultation. And that was diverse. There were young, old, students, experts, so-called experts, self-styled experts, industry, consumers. All of them played a role, gave their inputs, and we took on board as much as we could and created a framework that we believe is durable and can catalyze the growth of the internet going forward. Similarly, you will see we have just launched, as the Secretary mentioned, the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill that will cause deep, decisive behavioral changes in the way platforms and intermediaries deal with consumer data, deal with consumers per se, and that behavioral change will be caused by the certain section in the bill that talks about punitive consequences of you misbehaving or misusing personal data. It's a consequence of that clause in the bill. And you will also soon see a Digital India Act, which will supersede and replace the IT Act. And you will, in this room, I'm sure multi-stakeholder consultation are aware that the IT Act, the act that regulates the internet, that the law that actually forms the very basis of anybody in technology today in India, is a 22-year-old act. And I think regardless of how old you are in this room, you will agree that 22 years in the internet age is far too long for a law to remain relevant or being relevant. So we will certainly soon, with the same type of consultation, the same type of deep involvement by all stakeholders, build the third leg of this global standard cyber law framework that we hope will catalyze the Indian internet and indeed the Indian innovation economy. I'll just say a last point about inclusion and accessibility to the internet by the global south, the countries that have not been able to step up and create the same sort of pace of digitization of their economies and internetization of their economies. The India Stack, which is now a tremendously powerful offering that sits on the internet, that goes all the way from identity authentication to a very diverse and a rich suite of applications. The Honorable Prime Minister, during the G20 presidency of India during this coming year, has declared that he will be open to India offering that platform, offering the India Stack to all of those nations in the global south that want to, in a sense, transform their economies and their governance models and their citizens to the same type of growth and opportunity that we are seeing in India on the back of the power of the internet. I will end there, and I'll just thank again NIXI and the IIGF, the multi-stakeholder architecture or the multi-stakeholder DNA of the Indian internet is something that has happened after a lot of effort. It is now in the next few years, this multi-stakeholder engagement must really go beyond the intellectual academic discussions that are good, no doubt, and are required as well, but to really addressing some of the challenging issues of ensuring that the internet grows, innovation grows, but also that the internet and the innovation remain safe and trusted and accountable for all the billion digital Nagariks that in India will be stakeholders of the internet. I will leave it at that. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir. One more thing I just want to inform all audience that sir has introduced a very critical part of internet which we are going to pursue is the internet resilience. And on internet resilience, whatever ecosystem is required to be built up, that is what Government of India under leadership of sir, we are going to work on this. 3 days were wonderful and the closing ceremony was much more than that. So definitely all of us, we would like to remember this particular day. Now may I request Anupam Agarwal, who is a member of the coordination committee, to give a small mementos to Minister and all the other dignitaries who are here. So first of all to Sir, Minister Sir. हाँ मिंट को भेजेंगे सर मिंट definitely a memento will be given to Vint so that he remembers and what sir has said. So next memento to Dr. Vint sir. Of course we can just show and then of course we can keep and we can give. Thank you. And to Shri Alkesh Kumar Sharma, Secretary Mighty, and also the member of the leadership panel of the United Nations UGF. To Mr. N.G. Subramaniam, Chief Operating Officer of TCS. And also to Mr. Mehndi from Jupi Games. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Now we are coming to the close of this IIGF 22. I request Sarika, who is director from FICCI, and also she is the coordination committee member in charge of the multilingual portion of IIGF, which is very, very important, which Secretary Sir has spoken, Honorable Minister has spoken, Vint also has spoken, to come and propose vote of thanks. And after that, I request the dignitaries on the dais to have a photograph and also with the coordination committee members also. Thank you. Sarika.
Thank you, Anandji. A very good evening to all of you and very good morning, Dr. Vint sir. So we keep your memento, and when you, as you promised to get your wife along with you, we give it to you in person next year. So we hope to give it to you directly. And I would like to say that before I propose vote of thanks, thank you for giving us the internet, and that is why we have a room full of people, and of course, people talking here about the various prospects of the internet. So thank you for the same. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the ending of the closing ceremony of a monumental initiative organized in a country, as our Honorable Minister has said, for a population of 1.4 billion, having around 800 million internet users, and many more are coming online. So we play a role both as consumers, like Sir has mentioned, as well as the participators. So this is actually a very, very important thing which has happened in the country, and we would like to actually thank and actually remember the blessings of everybody who has contributed in the same. So thank you, Minister Sir, for joining us today. Also, special thanks for being supportive of the multi-stakeholder journey since long. When you mentioned about 2012, even I went back to the memories of the same room when we were talking about the same. So thank you, sir, for actually being supportive of it. And that is why this IIGF was being able to get organized by a multi-stakeholder committee. Of course, led by and headed by our chairman from NICSI, Mr. Anil Kumar Jain ji. So thank you all for joining us. So few things I'd like to mention. Of course, the 5 sub-themes you are already aware of. I would just say that it's 3 days of the consultation with 128 speakers who have participated, both in person as well as online. We have had, of course, the 5 sub-themes, 17 workshops, 2 high-level panels, 2 main panels, 5 fireside chats, and 3 flash talks. That's what the composition has been there for the three days of our IIGF. And of course, what it talked about, the words everybody has been mentioning about, making it accessible, affordable, equality, safety, security, of course, all the things which you think about, and the Honorable Minister Sir has already mentioned about it, so I'll not be repetitive, but that was the reason we are actually talking about this IIGF. That is what the multi-stakeholder committee has been talking about it for all the 3 days. When I talk about the multi-stakeholder committee, of course, it has the participation from the industry, from the government, technical fraternity, academia, and of course the civil society. So without even forgetting anybody, I would say it's all of you which has made the IIGF successful. Of course, the blessings of the NIXI and the government has been completely there for the successful execution of the event. I would now like to, of course, acknowledge it, the order. Thank you, Honorable Minister, sir, for joining us today, for being part of it, of course, sharing your thought, and of course, leading the baton from India's perspective. We all feel that we can contribute well with you to, of course, make India go on a second stage of the digital revolution. And as our Honorable Prime Minister's vision has been there, the decade is going to be there, so we can leverage this decade for empowering Bharat under your guidance. Thank you, sir, for the same. Thank you, Secretary, sir, Sri Alkesh Kumar Sharma ji, for, of course, guiding us at every moment, being part of the whole discussions, and, of course, being the part of the IGF leadership panel. I would like to thank Dr. Winsor. Thank you, sir, for being the reason for the whole discussions back in 1990s. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I would like to thank Mr. Paul Michel, also our speakers, Mr. N.G. Subramaniam. Thank you, sir. And as mentioned, you've already covered much in detail about your words in your speech. That is something which is very important. We look for a pragmatic approach towards the same. Mr. Dalsher, of course, we value the startups, we value how the whole system is coming up. So thank you for part of it. That is what the spirit of IIGF is. I would like to thank the Multi-Stakeholder Coordination and Organizing Committee, of course, led by Shri Ani Kumar Jain ji, Shri T.V. Ramachandran, Vice Chair, Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya, Vice Chair, Professor Rajat Moona, Srimati Amrita Chaudhary, Dr. Ajay Data, Shri T. Santosh, Shri Anupam Agarwal, Shri Satish Babu, Srimati Seema Khanna, Shri Mahesh Kulkarni, Shri Shantanu Acharya, Shri Shubham Sharan, and of course, I was also part of the same. Thank you all for being part of it. So we would be taking your vision on the multilingual internet to the next level. We all show that commitment towards you, and we will work hand in hand for the same. I would like to thank the India IIGF Secretariat and the various committees which have been functional as part of the organizing of this event, which included pre-IIGF activities. We were able to have some multiple level of discussion, especially on the multilingual internet at various regions of the country as part of the pre-IIGF activities. We had a regional language committee, sponsorship, theme, reception, international relations, marketing committee, and knowledge partner. My vote of thanks would be incomplete if I don't acknowledge the work done by the people which had been at the back. Complete thanks to this set of volunteers who have come forward for organizing this IIGF, the speakers, 128 speakers who have been part of the discussions, the audience who have stayed with us throughout for the 3 days, and the supporters, complete supporters of the IIGF. Last but not the least, our friends from the media, thank you for covering it. Thank you for putting us in the right fashion in your, I would say, both print and electronic media. I would end up say that coming together is a beginning, keeping together is a progress, and working together is a success. With this, we end up this IIGF and look forward to the next edition for next year. Thank you all. While I request the dignitaries to take the group photograph, for the participants, there is a high tea being organized on the 3rd floor. Kindly join us there. Thank you.